All right, let's get right into this because it's a story that starts with a really baffling question. How is it possible that a country like Zambia, which is sitting on some of the largest copper reserves in all of Africa, is also one of the poorest nations on the entire planet? And even stranger, how is all of that immense wealth connected to a tiny, picture-perfect village in Switzerland? To really wrap your head around this, you have to picture two completely different worlds. First, you've got Rüschlikon, this beautiful little village right outside Zurich, Switzerland. It's one of the richest communities in the country, real estate is booming, and there's basically no unemployment. Then, on the other side of the world, you have Mufulira, a town in Zambia's Copperbelt. This place sits on top of unimaginable mineral wealth, but it's just trapped in this endless cycle of poverty. Now, these two places, thousands of miles apart, are connected in a way you just wouldn't believe. So, what is that connection? Well, it all comes down to this one staggering number, 360 million Swiss francs. That's how much tax money the tiny village of Rüschlikon got in a single year from just one person, Ivan Glasenberg, the CEO of the massive commodities company Glencore. I mean, the whole situation is just so wild, and the mayor of Rüschlikon captures it perfectly. He talks about getting this phone call from the tax office, basically telling him, hey, you better find a bank account that's big enough to hold 360 million francs. The village was so suddenly flush with cash, their first move was to vote to lower their own taxes by 7%.
But this massive windfall created a real moral dilemma. A few villagers suggested, hey, maybe we should donate some of this money to help the poor communities in places like Africa that are affected by Glencore's mining. But in a classic Swiss town hall meeting, that proposal was shot down. Overwhelmingly, the villagers voted to keep the money for themselves.
And that decision, made in a small Swiss village, has massive ripple effects. So now, let's pivot. Let's go to the source of all this incredible wealth and really dig into the paradox that's playing out in Zambia.
And here it is, the paradox in black and white. In just a decade, foreign companies pulled more than $29 billion worth of copper out of the ground in Zambia. $29 billion. And yet, despite all that wealth being extracted, Zambia consistently ranks as one of the 20 poorest countries in the world.
This quote from a Zambian local just says it all, doesn't it? We are wealthy, yet we are poor. It's the contradiction that defines the nation's entire story.
So how on earth is this even possible? Where does all that money actually go? Well, it's not some kind of dark magic, it's accounting. Let's break down the incredibly clever financial footwork that makes this all happen.
You see, the question that unlocks this whole thing is this. How can a giant corporation that is physically digging copper out of the ground in a country like Zambia somehow legally claim that all the profit was actually made in a low-tax country like Switzerland? And the answer has a name. It's called transfer pricing. Here's the basic idea. If you're a giant multinational company, you've got divisions all over the world, and they're constantly trading with each other. By playing with the prices of these internal sales, you can make it look like your profits were earned, not where you did the actual work, but in some other country that has super low taxes. So let's walk through exactly how this works. Step 1. Glencore's company in Zambia, Mopani, mines the copper. Simple enough. Step 2. Mopani sells that copper to its own parent company in Switzerland, but at a ridiculously low, artificial price. Step 3. The parent company in Switzerland then turns around and sells that very same copper on the global market for the real, much higher price. And the result? Presto. The massive profit is now officially on the books in low-tax Switzerland, while the Zambian company looks like it barely made any money at all. So it pays almost no tax in Zambia.
Now, I know this might sound like some abstract financial theory, but it's not. There's a leaked audit, and the conditions on the ground in Zambia show the absolutely devastating real-world consequences of this kind of financial engineering.
Okay, so back in 2011, a confidential audit of the Mopani copper mines, done by a big international firm, got leaked, and the findings were just explosive. The auditors found, and I quote, strong indications of transfer pricing. They pointed out that the copper prices seem to be set entirely by the buyer, which just happened to be its own parent company, Glencore. This is a huge no-no. It violates what's called the arm's length principle, which says sales have to be at a fair market value. Oh, and the report also mentioned that Mopani fought the audit every step of the way.
So what you have here are two completely opposite stories. On one side, you've got the auditors concluding that it really looked like Glencore was manipulating prices to slash its tax bill in Zambia.
And on the other, you have Mopani's chairman flatly denying it, saying that situation is not correct. To this day, Glencore rejects all of the audit's findings.
But this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. The impact of all this missing tax money is absolutely catastrophic for Zambia. You've got environmental disasters like acid spills turning drinking water blue from the taps, and air pollution so bad it's causing widespread sickness. Economically, the country gets almost nothing from this huge copper boom, and that leads directly to the social problems, just crushing unemployment and poverty.
And if you want to understand the sheer desperation of that unemployment crisis, just listen to this from Zambia's vice president at the time, Guy Scott. He said he had to give his phone to his secretary every single morning because it was just flooded with texts from people begging for any kind of work. He said you can tell it, you can smell it, you can feel it. It's a national crisis.
So to really understand how a company gets to a point where it operates like this, you kind of have to look at its DNA, right? You have to look at its history. And Glencore's roots, well, they're pretty controversial.
So the company was started back in 1974 by a guy named Mark Rich. Fast forward to 1983, and Rich gets indicted for the biggest tax fraud case in U.S. history at the time, and for illegally trading oil with Iran while they were holding American hostages. He fled the country, became one of the FBI's most wanted fugitives. Later, the company was renamed Glencore. And then, in a final bizarre twist, Mark Rich was pardoned by President Bill Clinton on his very last day in office.
Now you might be asking yourself, why would Zambia ever sell its most valuable assets, its mines, to foreign companies in the first place? Well, in the 2000s, the country was in deep financial trouble. The World Bank and the IMF basically told them that if they wanted loans and debt relief, they had to sell off their state-owned copper mines. As one official put it, Zambia had its back against the wall and was forced to sell.
So when you pull all of these threads together, the Swiss village, the Zambian mine, the corporate history, it forces you to completely rethink the whole idea of foreign aid and what it means to help a developing country.
See, a lot of us in Western countries think we're being incredibly generous. We hear about billions of dollars in foreign aid. But to really get the picture, you have to compare the money flowing in as aid to the money flowing out through other channels.
And the math is it's mind-blowing. One global estimate found that for every single dollar that flows into a developing country as foreign aid, something like $10 flow back out through things like corporate tax avoidance. 10 times more money leaves than comes in as help. And that right there is the key takeaway. When you have a global financial system that is set up to allow a country's natural wealth to be legally pulled out of the ground and have its profits shifted somewhere else before they can ever be taxed, the conversation has to change. It stops being about charity and starts being about basic economic justice. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative question. Think about it. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has a giant hole in the bottom. If the entire system is designed to let a nation's own wealth drain away, what good does that one little drop of aid we put in the top really do? It forces us to ask what helping really means.